Hello guys, welcome to one more video, and sit down now comfortably, pay attention, cause on today's video we're gonna talk about the kundalini energy, the sexual energy. So watch to the end so you don't get it wrong, understand everything correctly, okay? So let's get started. What is sexual energy? The kundalini energy. That energy is a basic energy of living beings and it needs to be better used. Or do you think, for example, the ancient wise monks, genius and enlightened ones of the past value that energy for nothing? Of course not. So you won't waste that energy for nothing. Obviously, I'm not telling you to become an ascetic or anything like that. It's okay today to relate. It's just not going to draw that energy down the drain, okay, young men? Especially young people. I know you understand me. The harms of wasted energy you already know, obviously, right? Physical and mental tiredness, loss of creativity, you feel like you have no purpose. It looks like a hangover, right? And worst of all is that you enter a state of inferior man, in quotes, inferior man, which basically means that we will only operate with the lower chakras. If you don't know what a chakra is, chakras are the energy centers that we have in the whole body, discovered by the ancient sages, rishis, Indian yogis. The most famous are the main seven, those 7 chakras that everybody talks about, especially the new age, and it had the colors and etc., but most don't know what it means. But anyway, if you want me to make a video about chakras later, just ask here in the comments, okay? The lower chakras are basic, proper, sexual and solar plexus, which are responsible for more mundane and vulgar activities, let's put it this way, such as feeding, reproduction, walking, physical strength, and etc. It's basically what animals do. That's why Jesus talks so much to learn to love. Remember, love your little brothers as yourself. Love some more. Remember, something that we want to learn today, right? But anyway, why did it talk so much about love, and especially at that time when people were very real and such, and resemblance to today, it is a mere coincidence, okay? So when you unlock this heart chakra, that's why Jesus talks so much about love, because in love you unlock the heart chakra, which is the more technically known as anahata chakra. Then, as this heart chakra is activated, you came out of a lower man state, in quotes, and you begin to enter a high level, intermediate, technically speaking. The heart chakra is intermediate between the upper and lower chakras. It is there in the middle, and as an intermediate. That's why he talks so much about loving, because when you unlock the intermediate chakra between the upper and lower, you already halfway walking, halfway to freeing the upper centers of force, involved with intellectual activities, more subtle activities, with the feeling of unity, with the most superior, most divine things, let's put it this way, with the most divine feelings that we saw, for example, in the great enlightenment, in the great human beings, for example, Jesus, Buddha, Mahatma Gandhi. That love, that level of compassion, it starts from that heart chakra, which is the anahata. My cat just jumped here on me, but anyway, continue. So, when the ancient monks, the ancient sages, they practiced celibacy, it was very common because of that. Because when you activate these heart centers, as I already said, you will experience a much higher pleasure. Then, pleasure comes out from these lower regions, here from the lower chakras, and it begins to rise, and you begin to experience more sublime pleasures. As I said, using these great beings as an example, they begin, for example, to take pleasure in helping, pleasure in being useful, having compassion, a love, that feeling of non-self, of loss of ego, of unity. So it starts from these upper chakras, okay? That's why there was a practice of celibacy. But it's important to make it clear, to avoid confusion or anything like that. When the ancient monks, the sages, they did the celibacy, it was not for the same reasons those of Catholic Church, okay? Because in the Catholic Church, the reason for celibacy was more to avoid displeasure in the lower regions, avoiding sex, and in that way the priests are not to have children and the church's fortune is not shared with those children, keeping the devoted from the spirit from becoming pervert on the path to God. They were not intended to awaken the upper chakras or, for example, to open the third vision through the third eye, to open the crown chakra, the Sahasrara, which is the chakra of enlightenment. No, that was not the point. The goal was simply a refusal of sexual energy, as they consider it abominable. The reason why you often see around there news from priests and other people who do some abominable things with little children and things like that, which you can't even talk about here on YouTube, it happened almost always for the following reason. When you refuse that sexual energy, when you try to fight against it, when you try to repress that energy, this energy wants to come out in some way. And if it doesn't come up, that is, if it doesn't rise to the higher centers, if that energy is not transmutated, people will easily screw up, So that is why abusers often do these wrong things, because they don't transmute that sexual energy. But it's important to be clear, the problem is with the mind, not the energy. Perversion is in the person's mind. Kundalini energy cannot be blamed. It would be like blaming a knife for a crime, not the criminal. These things are tools, and their use is responsibility of the user, okay? So it is very important to know how to transmute this energy. Even I can make videos about it, about transmuting that energy, because it is a long subject. There is no way to say everything only in this video, okay? So if you want, tell me here in the comments, right? So that's why the practice of meditation among monks, the yogis, among the sages of all time, they knew the importance of doing this, of doing higher activities, as in the case of philosophers, for example, when they dedicate themselves to intellectual life, or in the case of yogis, when they dedicate themselves to the spiritual and inner life through the process of yoga. Yoga means union, to integrate with. In this spiritual context, it is a process of union with God. It is not gymnastics, damn it, okay? I always want to say that to the people of New Age. Coming back. You start to activate these higher centers, for example, the third vision chakra, which is the third eye chakra, which is the famous eye of Horus. You know that little eye you see in the Illuminati pyramid, it is connected to that eye. So it is connected to that eye, which is the eye of Horus, which is a representation of the spiritual eye. Intellectual activities are connected with this center, because this center is right here in the forehead region, between the eyebrows, where the cerebral cortex is. So, in this prefrontal cortex, in fact, it is linked to all these intellectual activities, more linked to memory, to the intellectual itself, reading, the general view, let's put it this way. The word intellect came from to read from within, to choose between, from Latin. It is connected with that too. So we can talk about these energy centers in the future. We can talk about chakras if you want. Let me know here in the comments and we'll do it, okay? So that is